Okay, so I've worked on a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to do a quick laundry list here very, very quickly just so you can see. So Game of Thrones was my first one. I did a bunch of stuff for that. Defiance on Sci-Fi. Starcrossed on the CW. Thor the Dark World, the second one. Dominion on Sci-Fi, The 100. Airing its last season in May. We were almost done shooting it. Penny Dreadful, that was a fun one. I liked that. The Shannara Chronicles. The Warcraft movie, Doctor Strange, Emerald City, Bright on Netflix, Into the Badlands for the last season, The Christmas Chronicles on Netflix, The Arena of Valor was a game, a MOBA game, Another Life, a series on Netflix, its second season is coming, The Witcher just finished filming its first season, Shadow and Bone, it's also on Netflix, it's coming, and the Dune film is going to be coming out at the end of the year. So anyway, given that it is the season for it, I thought I'd begin with just a simple reminder to, please remember to wash your hands with warm water. And now, for the rest of the time, we're going to be translating that phrase into a brand new language that we're going to create right here on the spot. And so we're going to use this here to assist us. So please, everybody, get ready to say stuff. Because if you don't, somebody else is going to dominate it, and this thing is going to go off the rails real quick. Just kidding. No, it'll be fun. All right, so when you're creating a brand new language, the first thing, before you even start anything else, is to decide what type of a language you're going to create, and that usually involves figuring out who the speakers are, if the language is going to be spoken or signed or written, or if they're going to have some other means of communication. So far, the only thing that we know for certain about language is that it's some way to encode meaning in some sort of form. But that form could take various routes. So we're going to kind of skip over that step and just say, let's just practice with a spoken language, since those, most languages that we know of are spoken, and so most people have familiarity with them. So spoken languages have sounds, and sounds actually come in groups. So I'm going to start just by giving you some of these here. So these sounds right here, which are pretty simple. So we have P, T, K, S, H, M, N, L, and they all have about the sounds you would expect them to. So these are consonants, and then these are vowels, and they are A, I, U. They don't have their English pronunciations. These sounds, the consonants and vowels here, most languages have all of these sounds, and all languages have most of these sounds. So it's a good place to start. But after this, you can add stuff, you can subtract stuff. For example, Hawaiian, or at least many dialects of Hawaiian don't have a T. They also don't have an S. No dialect of Hawaiian has an S. Many languages don't have an L. Many languages don't have an R. So anyway, this is a good place to start our sound system. But now we're going to either add or subtract stuff to it. So go. What do we like? This is a very, very, very basic sound system. Do you want to add anything? What?
Q.
No, wait, hold on. Okay, first of all, Q, we're gonna deal with the IPA. So what is written as Q, if you do it in IPA, this is a sound that's known as a uvular stop. Ka, ka, ka. It's like K, but further back in the mouth. The back of your tongue touches the uvula and produces a sound that's not ka, but ka. It's why we spell the name of this country with a Q. It's not Iraq, it's Iraq. Iraq, with a nice hollow Q sound in the back. Anyway, so, you sure you want Q? It's a fun one. I like it. I like it. But if you want it, we'll add it. Wait, votes for Q? Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're adding Q. All right. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. So we're going to have our basic phonology, and we are adding Q, uvular stop. All right, any others? Any other favorites? Yeah?
Velar nasal.
Velar nasal, of course. This is the sound at the end of sing, and also at the beginning of the Vietnamese name Nguyen, if you pronounce it right. But I didn't, but at least I pronounced the velar nasal part right. So this is a good one. Okay, anything else that we want to throw in?
V.
What? Give it B as in
Victor.
Oh, V as in Victor. Okay, let's talk about that. So we have fricatives. These are sounds that sound roughly like, we don't have a table here. I don't know if you're even going to be able to pick this up. But they sound roughly like this. Right? So sh, v, s, and so forth. The difference between, let's say, these two sounds is whether the vocal folds vibrate. These are the little things that help prevent food from getting into your lungs. So if we leave them silent, you get a sound like F. If you vibrate them, you get this sound. V. They're exactly the same sound. The only difference is that your vocal folds are vibrating. So as we talk about V here, when you add sounds to a language, sounds tend to come in groups. So this guy is a part of two groups, the group of voice sounds and the group of fricatives, this one voiceless sounds and fricatives. So far, we have voiceless stops and a very good series of them, P, T, K, and K. We've got a series of nasals, though we don't have a uvular nasal, I'll note that. And we only have voiceless fricatives, S and H. If we want to add V, do we want to also add F? And do we want to add this guy's sibling, Z? S and Z are the same sound, but one has a vibration of the vocal folds. So whoever suggested the V, what do you think?
Sure, why not?
All of them? Are we good with this?
Can we add V and Z without the unvoiced pairs? Or is that just weird?
No, it's not actually. There are plenty of languages that actually have V that don't have F. Z without S? No, you don't find that. And we already have S, so we'd have to remove it. Remember, S is there. But we could add just Z and V. There are lots of languages that will have a V and not have an F, and this is because it's a weak fricative. So something like these guys right here are strong fricatives. These and that one there, actually, these are all weak. And so things will happen with these that don't happen with these. Okay, so we got Z and V. Yes?
A rolled R.
A rolled R. That's a very good one. I like that sound. I'm just going to add it without even consulting anybody. Everybody can do that one, right? And so on. That's a good one. Oh, and actually, I should have asked which type of rolled R. Did you mean that rolled R, or did you mean the one? The first one. Okay, good. Okay. So let's see, we got PTK, SZ, V, we have M and Engma, we have a K. We don't have any fricatives in the back. We don't have anything like Ch or R or Ch or Ra or H or A. That's also one. These are things, yeah.
What about a ya?
A ya. Hey, that's a good one. That's a good one. Any objections to ya? A ya as in yellow? Ooh, all right, the symbol for that one is a J. A J, a ya. We're getting a pretty good set.
Any click?
Any clicks? Clicks also will come in series if you add clicks. So for example, you'll never find a language that has a whole bunch of non-click sounds and then just has this, which is, right? No language has that. Every language has, as far as we know, I think at least the minimum is 3. It might be 2. I'm going to have to look this up. I'm very interested now. But usually something like that, which is that one. And then what else? There's also that one, which is dental. And then, so what? I guess very few languages have this one, which looks like the chemical symbol for gold, but is that one. And then I'm missing my other click, so it's lateral. Well, no, this one was the lateral. This one was the lateral, palatal lateral. All right, well, anyway, these are the 4. Okay, how do we feel about adding some clicks? Because if we're adding 1, we're adding at least 2. Huh? All right. All right. Which 2? Which 2 we want here? Or, sorry. So.
The gold symbol.
Okay. And then what is our other one? The horse one? Or the clock one? Or that one. Okay. Here we go. We got it. We got it. We got it. Okay. Clock and also, sorry, that one, no, I'm sorry. That was that and clock. Okay, good. All right, let's give us some space here. Why don't we've got a good set of consonants. Why don't we jump to vowels? Now, vowels are a little bit easier because there aren't as many that are distinguished in languages. We've got, so far, a, I, u. And actually, it's not a, it's more of an a. A, I, u. And these sounds are very common. You'll find them in many languages. English has a whole bunch of vowels that are both at different levels and at different, what do you call it? Whether they're tense or lax. In other words, keyed versus kid. Keying a car versus, joking with a car. I kidded the car. So we have things like that. European languages will have the front rounded vowels. So rather than E, they'll have E and U. And rather than just A, they'll have A and U. I don't think anybody has that sound.
We should.
You think so? Oh, God. That has the IPA symbol like this, which I don't think that they even list on the IPA anymore because somebody finally realized no language has that sound. So they just removed it from the IPA. But it's there. Yeah, very, very low and round. So not but Yeah.
Before we go deep into vowels,
Yes.
quick question about the consonants.
You bet.
Saying like, you'll never find a language that has one of these sounds in this class of sounds, but not some of the other ones.
Yes.
And I was wondering, like, you're designing a language now.
Yes.
Are these rules that you really don't want to break because it'll sound unnatural, or like?
That's a good question, actually. So the question was like, when it comes to universal tendencies in languages, are these things that you want to break or not? It depends on the type of language you're making, which is kind of I don't know. For what we're doing right now, I guess it isn't as super important. I always try to kind of like make it a little bit, I guess, more natural, but you don't necessarily have to. Plus, these things are always just jumbling around in my mind. So every time one pops up, I say, well, you can't do that but you actually can do whatever you want. If you're just designing the language just on your own, you can absolutely do with that whatever you want, as long as it actually functions and some other person understands what you're doing. And you don't need to bother a bit about what other languages do. Sometimes it can help inform so you know when you're breaking the rules on purpose and when you're not. But okay, so, but yeah, we need to move. There's much more in language than just the sounds. Vowels?
How about long and short variants on vowels?
That's good. All right, let's do that. So rather than just a, I, u, it's a, I, u versus a, I, u. I kind of like that. So I'm just going to add this little oh, brother, of course. Well, you just trust me. This means that we're going to have long and short variants of all the vowels. So now we've got 6 total vowels, which is good. The smallest number of vowels you can have in a language, as far as we know, is 2. And there are a couple of languages in the Caucasus that are argued to have 2 vowels, 2 distinctive vowels. Anyway, now we've got 6, so we're fine. We can add more. Like, for example, we don't have any mid-vowels like this one, e or o, or this guy that looks like an upside-down e that's just an But we can also be good. Is there anybody that feels like we should have more vowels? I'm actually seeing a lot of head shaking. All right, I actually want to put this to a vote. More vowels, yay. Raise your hands. The vast majority say we're good. So we're good. We're done with vowels. All right. This is our system for the time being. A very, very, very nice and stable system that also has 2 clicks in it. All right. So there's our vowels. So the next thing, this is the important part. When you're choosing whatever vowels and consonants are in your system, you're not actually defining the sound of your language. The real definition of the sound of your language comes from the syllables. That is, what can be at the beginning of a syllable, what can be at the end of a syllable, and how syllables are built. So here are 4 different languages. The top is Hawaiian. followed by Japanese, followed by English, followed by Georgian. So if you look at Hawaiian, Hawaiian is very distinct in that it allows no consonant clusters at the beginning of the word, and it doesn't allow any consonants to come at the end of a word or the end of a syllable. And so you end up with words like ho'oponopono, which, what does that mean? Pono is, to make better. That makes a lot of sense, of course, because it's a, okay. Oh, wait. Actually, since I'm over there, I forgot what the Japanese means, too. Studied. Benkyou shita. Okay, so in Japanese, you have only one sound that can come at the end of a syllable. However, you have certain circumstances where vowels can disappear, making it sound more or less like you can have more than just an N at the end of a syllable. So here there's an invisible I vowel that kind of drops out. English is just, terrible here. Look at this. Strengths. That's just awful. There's even like a hidden K in there when you pronounce it that we don't write. Strengths. The truth is most of us just don't pronounce all this stuff all the time. Have you ever thought about the worst word in English? Crafts. There's nothing worse than that word, crafts. Oh, I hate thinking about it. And then the bottom one, this is Georgian. And the word is, as far as I know, it's pronounced gprsvni. It's kind of it was definitely a concocted word for this example. It was like, it means you peel us, like in the present tense. So like, if somebody were asking a bunch of bananas, like, what do I do with you? The bananas would say, you peel us. That's... See, I made a context. But yeah, you can get tons of consonants all in a row in Georgian just like this. So the question is, for our language, what do we want to do? And we're going to break it down this way. Let's start at the beginning of the syllable. Do we want to allow more than one consonant to begin a syllable? I'm seeing several yeses, and if so, which ones? Which ones? And this is where it's going to help to break things into classes, all right? You have, you have stops, right? These are our P, T, K, Q. And you know what? These clicks are going to be tough. So just remember that they're not going to play nice with other things. Then you have nasals, and that's our M, N, angma, and fricatives. Sorry, we don't have F. We do have V, S, Z, and H, and then our liquids, L and R, and we have one glide, which is ya. So often when you're defining syllables, it's usually with respect to these categories. So in other words, sometimes if you look at English, we allow liquids to come after stops, but we don't allow L to come after coronals, T. So in other words, we have play and we have clay, but we don't have tlay. There's no reason we couldn't. We just don't in English. It does go the other way, though. So we have pray and cray and tray. That's fine. But for whatever reason, L coming after T and D is just out. Yeah?
What about like kettle?
Kettle. There basically is a different type of L. The L has essentially become a vowel. Realistically, there's like a little bitty vowel before it. But it's kettle. It's not ket. Right? But you actually do get that in plenty of languages. And you do get that with the R in French, which is why, oh my goodness. Is this, yeah. Wait, is that how you spell that?
Yes.
Quatre. Yeah. And you just kind of do the TR at the end of it. You don't actually say this little vowel. Unless you're an American learning, then you do it all the time. Quatre. So anyway, thoughts on consonant clusters? You can do lots of wild things. Like you can have an N come after a T, tenasis. You could do that if you wanted, but you don't have to.
Prenasalized clicks.
Prenasalized clicks. You could do that. They're actually just called nasal clicks, though. So that would be a distinction between instead of a clock sound, instead of it would be Did you hear? So wait. It's like instead of a knock, it feels like a niche. But that was too far forward. Sorry. Basically, what you have to feel is air passing through your lungs, out your nose, when you're doing the click. Anyway, so we can have that distinction. Let's just throw that in. So, yeah, nasal versus non-nasal clicks. Good luck. So we've got our nasalized clicks. Anything else? Do we want PL? Do we want TL? Do we want things like that? Let's just say we can get, all right, liquids coming after stops. That's great.
Do we get glides after stop?
Yes, we can get glides after stops. All right, cool.
How about fricatives after stop?
Absolutely, we can. I mean, look, like, do you know in what we have as qua, when that gets borrowed into a lot of languages like German, it's kva, which is, you know, just what, right? It's just this, kva. So yeah, that's fine. All right, anything coming after nasals or no?
Is there any combination of these that's like universally not allowed?
Maybe a stop coming after a stop. You can have a word that begins, you know, like Swahili does this a lot. Mtoto. Mtoto is a word for child. So it's an M followed by a T. Now, the only difference is that in something like mtoto, this is actually, that little mark means it's syllabic, so it's actually like this is 3 syllables, it's not 2. But yeah, you can do that. You also have this thing called pre-nasalized stops, where it actually isn't a syllable. It's like nda, nda, nda. You can even have the opposite, which is really frustrating to me, like nah. I don't even know how to do it. I've never been able to successfully pronounce this, but you actually have like nasal exits for stops, which doesn't make any sense to me, but it's possible. All right. Okay, let's call that a day for the beginning of the word. How about the end of a word? Are words going to be able to end with a consonant? I actually heard a lot of no's. We don't want words ending with consonants?
That's nonsense.
That's amazing. I love it. Actually, you want to know one of the weirdest universals when it comes to clicks? Apparently, clicks can't end a syllable. I don't know why. Seems fine to me. So like, ma. It seems fine. I don't see why that would be anything bad about that. But yeah, it doesn't happen at all. Okay, so no codas. So we're done with sounds. So let's, oh wait, I'm sorry. You were asking, can you associate sounds with particular parts of speech? Oh, look at that. That would have been helpful. Anyway, I mean, yeah, you could. Languages generally do not. Natural languages generally do not, but you absolutely could. Yeah.
If we have phonemic distinctions between long and short vowels, does that
Yes.
necessarily mean it can't be a stressed language?
No, absolutely not. Hawaiian has long and short vowels and has stress. Arabic has long and short vowels and has stress. Yeah, no problem there. We didn't talk about stress, but we actually could talk about stress versus tone, but we can't because we're running out of time. So let's move on. It's just going to be a stress language. All right. When we talk about nouns, nouns can do a couple of different things. They can have number. So in English, right, we have ship versus ships. The second one is Arabic. So you have qat, qatain, and qatat, which is cat, 2 cats, and then 3 or more cats. So you have a special form in Arabic that means exactly 2 of something. And it still enjoys a lot of use. Then you also have something like Pokemon, where it's singular and plural. Basically, there's no distinction in number at all. And did you know this goes for the names of the Pokemon? So it's like it's not 2 Pikachus, it's 2 Pikachu. I mean, I find that easier with some than others, especially Geodude. There are 3 Geodude over there. What a terrible name. Anyway, so we can do any of those things. Either, so just have a simple singular versus plural, or we can have a singular dual plural, or nothing. Gender, I know that when you hear gender in a language, you immediately jump to this, but it doesn't actually need to have anything to do with biological sex or gender representation at all. I'm sorry, gender expression. It could be other things. So like this could be the gender system of a language. Could also have this. And then, again, this means that every single noun in the entire language will belong to one category or the other. So chair is obviously tent, but podium is probably hotel. Anyway, this is It's just a favorite of mine. I mean, just because they're three things I really like. You could have rectangles, squares, and other shapes. Natural, artificial, supernatural. This is actually one that's instantiated in one of the languages of the world, or a few of them. You could divide them into this, or this is a good one. Yeah. So, because most of the languages that we're familiar with in the West, which is all of the Indo-European languages and also the Semitic languages, have nominal gender that is based on, masculine or feminine, we tend to think that the two must be conflated, but they don't need to be. Swahili has, all the Bantu languages have a ton of genders. None of them are masculine or feminine. They all have to do with other things. Lots of times it's humans versus big things versus small things versus implements and so on. Anyway, so that was that. And then what comes after that? Oh, verbs. We're not ready for that. Okay, so let's talk about nouns. Number, yay or nay, and if so, what? I'm seeing nay for number. Anybody want to jump up and say yay? Wow. All right. Whoa. Hold on. I've got one yay. Any other yays for number? Oh my goodness. This is actually my... Okay. Raise your hands if you want a number distinction of some kind in this language. Oh my goodness. Okay. Raise your hand for no number distinction. I don't think we have time for a serpentine, but I mean, is there anybody here that can count sheep by their feet and divide by 4? My goodness. I don't know how to solve this. So I think we have to go with, in the interest of time, no number. All right, no number. How about gender? Are we doing gender? First of all, yay for gender. Ooh, nay for gender. Nay for gender. Oddly, I think the yays have it. There were many people who didn't vote. So,
I have a question about gender.
Yes.
What are some of the interesting genders you've added to your languages?
Some of the interesting genders I've added to my languages. Probably my favorite gender system was one I did for an alien language that I created on Defiance called Erathian. It had 18 genders. And the genders, the top portion of them, the bottom portion were things like, diminutive, augmentative, which are very common, abstract. So more like, I guess, category type things. The ones on top, it was plant, animal, person, and object. And each of those was divided into dangerous or threatening versus non-dangerous and non-threatening. And so there was a distinction, for example, between water, which was in the non-threatening substance class, and hot water, which was in the dangerous substance class. So that one was kind of a fun one. I really like that.
Neutrals.
What?
Neutrals. You feel the need for the neutral.
Oh, neutral, for neuter. It's neuter is something that really only... it only makes sense, or we only see it in systems that also have masculine and feminine. You don't tend to see it elsewhere, or if you do, it's basically a category called other rather than neuter, because of course neuter is neuter, it means neither one, so it implies two others. So other is usually a better name for that. And honestly, there usually is a dumping ground in gender systems where it's like if you don't know what it is, it goes here, unless it's a binary system. And usually it's one of the ones that has to do with if it's not specifically this or that thing or this thing, then it goes here. So anyway, does anybody want to jump out and suggest a gender system for this?
Physical and non-physical.
Ooh, that's nice. Physical versus non-physical. That's pretty good. Anybody want to add something? Oh my God, you're jumping all the way to alienable versus inalienable possession. Maybe that's something that we should talk about. Alienable possession is something like this. Right now, this is mine. I don't even know what you call this, my thing. But this arm of mine is probably not something that I'm going to part with very soon. So calling this my thing versus calling this my arm is something that languages will treat differently. Do we want to make that distinction?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have... alienable versus inalienable. This doesn't necessarily need to be a part of the gender system, but it can be just something that happens and it can show up elsewhere. Let's just throw it up. Physical versus non-physical. Who's in favor of this? All right, we got it. Okay. Okay, and then we're just going to look at verbs really quickly because both of the verb forms that we have are a little strange. But verbs will sometimes change their form depending on how they're used in the sentence. So for tense, for example, one way that your verbs can change is not at all. It just doesn't change no matter how it's used. You could also have a past versus non-past distinction. This is what English has. You could also have past, present, and future. This is what Latin had. Past, non-past, ancient past. That's actually a thing that happens. Gnomic means timeless. So in other words, past. So it's like the dogs barked versus the dogs are barking versus dogs bark in general. It's a true fact about the world. You can also totally ditch tense or combine it with aspect. And so complete just means that the action has finished, and incomplete means the action has not finished, and it doesn't say anything with respect to tense. In other words, when it happened. There's also about to happen, happening, just happened. And now this is where it's going to be relevant for us. Commands can come in several varieties. It could just be a basic command, like in English, do this, do that, and that's it. But you can also have a different form of the verb depending on polite versus impolite. Singular versus plural, that is if you're talking to one or more people. And then, of course, you could probably also do dual. I don't think I've ever seen one, but you could. Positive versus negative, in other words, do this or don't do this. Sometimes you'll have different forms for that. And then for non-finite forms, these are things like if you're going to have a separate infinitive or if you're going to have a participle or something like that. Now, the reason I'm kind of giving this the short shrift, even though this is the most complicated aspect of language, is remember that what we're translating is, please remember to wash your hands with warm water. And so there's only two verbs there, right? There's remember, depending on what we do with please, but there's remember, and then there's wash. Remember is a command, and the wash part, or the to wash part, is basically an infinitival construction, meaning that there's no tense, there's no aspect, it's just the bare form of the verb. So the only question that I think I want to put forth to us is, these are nouns. Let's talk about verbs. Command forms. Do we want to make any distinctions between polite, impolite, how many people we're talking to, or positive or negative?
Polite.
Okay, okay. All right. So you want to make it, basically, if you have a polite distinction in your what you're talking about, in your command forms, all you're doing is making it extra clear when you want to insult somebody. So, all right. So here, polite versus impolite. We're going to have to eventually do these things, right? Okay, so polite versus impolite. Multiple, talking to one person or more? No. That's very good. Do you know why it's good? Exactly. These things tend to agree. Very good. Okay, and then positive versus negative, it's not really going to come into play for us because usually if one is going to be default, it's going to be positive. In other words, if there's going to be like a little affix on something that indicates a difference in category, usually the one without it is going to be the positive. It would be pretty cool if there was a language where the default form was negative command forms. Just if you just say in the word, it means don't do it. That's pretty cool. Okay, and then for infinitives, do we want something that's going to indicate the infinitive? In English, we have this little to that we throw in there. Other languages like Spanish will actually add a little ending like amar versus, amo. What do we think? Something or nothing? Oh boy, we haven't even gotten to the fixes yet. Those are coming later.
Make the infinitive the root, the simplest form.
Oh, I'm hearing infinitive the root. Does anybody agree or disagree? Okay, basic form. Good. All right. So, but this could still be different. All right, next. Modifiers. Okay. So, when you look at these, reading from left to right, which one of these is the cat box versus the box cat? All right. We say that because in English, our modifiers come first. So even though these are both nouns, if you put one in front of the other, we assume that we're talking about a this kind of thing, not a this kind of thing. Obviously, a language can be totally neutral with respect to this fact, and you could have this be the natural order. Which one do we want? Like English or like Spanish? Spanish it is. All right, so we're going to just make a quick little note here. Nouns are followed by modifiers. Good. Okay, are we going to have adjectives, or are the adjectives going to be verbs? In other words, do you want to just have an adjective that means warm and we'll deal with how it means warm later? Or should it be something like there's a verb that means to be warm and we need a participle? Oh boy, we need to revisit verbs then. But okay, well, we're going to have to, so let's just, we're going to say adjectives to verb and we'll come back to that. Okay. Adverbs, do we need adverbs? Okay, let's see. Please remember to wash your hands with warm water. I don't think we need adverbs, but just know that they exist. Anyway, so now we're jumping to pronouns. Pronouns can have a bunch of different things. This is something that every single language on the planet has, as far as we know. Every single language on the planet has a first and second person pronoun. It makes at least that distinction. Many also have a third-person pronoun. Most will not have gender associated with that third-person pronoun. By the way, something I also throw in there, many also distinguish singular versus plural. Some don't. Some don't. Then there's also, a system where there's gender on the pronouns, and then the question is it on just the third person? Is it also on the second person? Is it also on the first person? And it gets less and less common as you go from third to second to first. So for example, like Arabic has gendered second-person pronouns but not first-person pronouns. Russian distinguishes gender on the verb in the first person in the past tense only. It's kind of wild. Anyway, so I don't think I've got anything else for pronouns. Oh yeah, there's also politeness that you could throw onto these things. What do we think for, and then agreement? In other words, when is the verb going to agree with something? So first, are we going to have first, second, and third person pronouns, or just first and second?
First, second, third.
First, second, third. Only third.
Oh my goodness. Let's go first, second, third, and then the question when it comes to gender and pronouns always comes from the gender, from the nouns. So we have physical versus non-physical. Is this going to show up in our pronoun system or not? Yes. Third person, second person, and first person? Just third person? What do we think?
What's the non-physical first person?
A toaster, a talking toaster. Wait, oh, non-physical. Non-physical. No, it's an entity, isn't it? It's an idea. Well, when ideas speak. When freedom speaks. Okay, no. Sorry. All right. So here we go. Phys versus non-phys. Okay, good. And then I guess we're not going to have number, huh? Yeah. All right, so we're just going to have those three pronouns and be done with it. That's good. Okay, so next, syntax. So in English, this is our word order. I means I, the heart means love, and the cat means cats. So I love cats is the basic way to say that, with the verb coming in the middle. You can also have, as in Japanese, you basically say I cats love if you throw the I in there. Watashi wa. Hawaiian, you have love I cats. Malagasy, spoken on Madagascar, love cats I. American Sign Language, depending on how you sign it, but I was thinking of, like cats love I. That's kind of a common way that it happens. Now, there is some extra stuff going on. Obviously, the cats is getting case marking, but anyway. And then there's this language I did find that has cats I love. This is the percentages worldwide of how common these word orders are. Japanese word order is the most common. Ours is the second most common. Hawaiian is the next, but you can see there's a huge drop-off there. And then basically this one, cats I love, I mean, there's like, it's 0% because that's what it rounds to. They argue that there's like 2 languages that do it, but that's about it. This one is also extremely uncommon, but somehow better than that one. It's kind of interesting. The truth is, you can probably find every single one of these word orders in every single language, depending on the construction. and how they're saying it. But this is like the basic default word order for that you're going to hear like 90% of the time. What do we want to go with for ours?
Love cat's eye.
Well, okay, I heard a bunch of different things. So there's one for Malagasy, which is love cat's eye. That was actually what you said too. Okay, 2 for Malagasy. VSO. That's Hawaiian. Love eye cats. Oh boy. Okay.
I could compromise with VSO.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. It's Malagasy versus it's Madagascar versus Hawaii. Which one's the best island? Okay. So first, VSO, like Hawaiian, love eye cats. And now VOS, Madagascar, love cat's eye. I'm sorry, Hawaii has it. Hawaii has it. Okay, so we're going to write our word order. I'm just going to write it right here, VSO, so we remember. All right, let's move on to the next thing, which is one of the reasons that we have varying word order or varying strategies is everybody always needs to be able to know how do you figure out who does what to whom. So if you're hugging the cat, how do you figure out if it's you hugging the cat or the cat is hugging you? Because it's a cat, you know it's not going to be the cat hugging you. Anyway, so for example, if you make this distinction with word order, it would mean like for English, I love cats is correct for the order of the person hugging the cat. The other order, cats love I, is wrong. So that's when you use word order to make this distinction. You can also use case. This is kind of the eyeshadow I gave these things. So you can see the orders are different, but the meaning of I love cats comes through for both because the I always has the blue eyeshadow and the cat always has the pink eyeshadow. So it doesn't matter what order you put the words in because the case is there. On the other hand, and this would be fine too, but this would be wrong because the eyeshadows change, the cases changed, meaning that the meaning is now opposites. That's another way to tell who does what to whom. There's also head marking, which is the verb itself changes form based on some salient form of the noun in question. It doesn't matter what order you put everything in because the verb will tell you who does what to whom. That is head marking. And so that would work and this would not.
Head marking is correlated to the object?
No, it could be object. Well, actually, most commonly it is the object. But it's often both. It could be the object, it could be the subject and object, it could be the subject, object, and indirect object. That's what actually you saw with Georgian. It does that. And then you could also mark it with add positions. So in other words, just a little word like to or at, which tells you who does what to whom. And add positions can come in 2 different orders. This is English, the cat in the box. This is Japanese, the in the box cat. This one's called a preposition because the thing that is being inside of or whatever comes first. And this one's called a postposition because it comes after. In other words, this thing governs this, and you call it a preposition if it comes before and a postposition if it comes after. And then you can also do it with affixes. And affixes, by the way, these things tend to line up. So if the verb comes at the end of the sentence or after the object, you tend to have suffixes more. If the verb comes at the beginning of the sentence, you tend to have prefixes more. I will note that our verb comes first. So how do we want to say who does what to whom? Strict word order, case marking, using an add position, probably a preposition, or head marking.
Head marking.
Preposition. Word order. Word order.
Whoa. How many for word order? How many for head marking? And how many for prepositions? I'm sorry, how many for cases? All right, well, let's say cases or prepositions and then you can decide if we want to mark it with an affix or with a preposition. So cases, strict case marking. This is dependent marking. Okay, that one definitely lost. So your candidate is out. So we're going to go back to word order versus head marking. Okay, word order. Head marking. Holy smoke, here we go. Head marking. Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to pop a quick HM there. All right, head marking, I'll remember. Okay. And then this coordination, I'm just going to throw up this note. We don't have to worry about it. But you can say X and Y, but you can also say X, Y, and, or and X and Y. There are many different ways to do coordination, just so you know. OK, now for the words. So what world are we describing? So this is where it gets busy. OK, so we have, ignore the please for right now. So remember to wash your hands with warm water. So let's start with one of the simple ones. Hand. As a reminder, we do have alienable versus inalienable possession. So unless this is a pair of hands you chopped off somebody else and brought to work, this is going to be inalienably possessed when you're talking about washing your hands. So one of the ways that inalienable possession works is that you don't use a word like your with it. That could be one way to do it. So in other words, instead of saying, remember to wash your hands, we would just say, remember to wash hands. And because it wasn't used, we would know. Otherwise, we can have a little marker on there. What are we feeling like? Marker. OK. So like I said, these tend to be either prepositions or prefixes for the type of word order that we have. We want preposition or prefix? Prefix. OK, now let's talk about the word itself. The word for hand is probably very basic if we're talking about human beings. There are many languages that don't distinguish between a word for hand and arm. Russian is one of them. And then there are some like English that do. So in other words, the word for this in Russian, which is it ruka? Anybody? Ruka. OK, so it could be talking about the hand by itself, or it could be talking about the whole arm. It just depends on context, and it's not. It usually doesn't make a big difference which one you're talking about, because you know. Anyway, we don't also have arm in this, so we don't have to worry about it. But it is a basic word. So, bearing in mind our consonants, does anybody want to take a stab at creating our very first word? Hand. What? Okay, hold on. Actually, they were very similar. Wait. And say it again. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was with the nasal one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. 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 All right. So this is the. So let's put our words right here. And this is how we indicate nasalization usually. But I mean, you do it differently for clicks, don't you? You usually just put the N right there. But I'm gonna, or an ingma, but I'm gonna leave it like that. Also, is that a long ooh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. There we go. Long. All right, so we got that. Ooh, hand. Okay. And so now we need to say that this hand is inalienably possessed. How do we want to do that? Do we want to do it with just a prefix that just says this thing is inalienably possessed? Or do we want to do it with a special pronominal marker? So in other words, you have different pronominal markers that means this thing is alienably versus inalienably possessed.
Prefix.
Right, but okay, so yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so one that's related to pronouns or one that's not. So related to pronouns, raise your hand. Not related to pronouns. Wow, we really are programmers. Just separate all the meanings out. Make sure they each have their own little bit. Okay, so what should this prefix be? What should the form of this prefix be that says this thing is inalienably possessed? Just by itself?
Yeah.
We never said that. We never said that we couldn't, did we? You happy with z ooh? Crap. Sorry. Z ooh. Z ooh.
I'd go with za. Za.
Z versus za. Hold on. How many for z? How many for za? All right, fair compromise it is. Okay, za is going to be inalienable. We'll just write it like that. Now we're probably going to need the your part somewhere. And remember that modifiers come second. So the modifier is going to come after this. So we're going to need a second person pronoun for, I don't know. Well, actually, since we have this gender system, physical versus non-physical entities, that means that you have to make a choice. Are you talking to physical or non-physical entities?
Yes.
I suppose, well, the question is, would non-physical entities have hands?
Right.
Or if they did, would they even need to be washed? Because they're not physical.
I don't want to get a computer virus.
Ooh. All right, well, let's start with this. What is our physical second person pronoun?
Something with R.
Something with R. R. Anybody want to add to R?
Ri.
Ri. Ri it is. Okay, so then we can do one of two things here. So we have, sorry, it's gonna za, u, and then ri. Now, we can just leave it like that. In other words, the pronoun itself can serve as a modifier as well. Or we can change it in some way so that this pronoun is marked as a modifier. So leave it alone or mark it?
Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Good. All right. So now we have the your hands part. All right. Yeah.
How do you tell that the person is physical versus non-physical? It seems ambiguous here.
That's because we only created the physical one. You want to create the non-physical one just for the heck of it? Yi? All right. There we go. Ri is physical you. Yi is non-physical you. Okay. All right. So we have the your hands part. Okay. Always remember to wash. So remember, we're doing just the basic form of the verb for an infinitive. What do we think about wash? Is that something that is going to be a basic notion that goes back to time immemorial? Or is it going to be something that's derived from something else?
Basic.
I disagree, but let's do it. Basic. Okay, come up. Somebody give us a form for wash. The language doesn't have a sh. Remember that. We had the option. We didn't go with it.
Inga.
Inga. Inga? Anybody? Inga. All right. Here we go. So, Inga. Yes, and we need the infinitive, remember. It's to wash your hands. So right now, we have to wash your hands. Inga zak uri. I'm sorry. Inga zak uri. No, I'm sorry. Inga zak uri. Gosh, this is a really tough one. This would take me a bit. Anyway, okay. What do we want to do next? Remember or with warm water? Remember. Now that's certainly something that's probably not going to be basic. How do we want to do that? How do we build a word for remember?
Remind yourself. Start from no.
Start from, K-N-O-W. Got you. Okay. We can start from no. Let's give us something for no.
Mati.
Mati. With a long ah?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Mati. All right. No. Okay. Now, how do we get from no to remember?
Mati.
Okay, you want to do full reduplication or have it shorten up a little bit?
Shorten. Mati. Yeah.
I kind of like this actually. All right, so with reduplication, we get mamati, remember. I like that too. Okay, so mamati. Okay, so now the question is, how are we going to indicate this command? Because it's a command to remember. How about
Ya as a suffix.
ya as a suffix? Ooh, matia. I kind of like that actually. I'm just going to go with that. Ti ya. All right. So this is was this polite or impolite? Polite. Okay, now you're right. Mamatia inga zanguri. Okay. Remember to wash your hands. And then, okay, the last thing we'll do, forget please, we'll just say it was built into this. With warm water. All right, so that's going to require, since we didn't do case, it's probably going to require a preposition. Anybody want to throw something out for a preposition? For with?
Saws.
We can't end anything with a consonant.
Sa.
Sa. All right. Okay, and now, water, probably super basic. Anybody want to throw out something for water?
V.
V?
Yep.
With a long?
Short.
Short.
V.
Savi. Okay, and then now we got to this whole deal with, so if we don't have adjectives, it's water that is warm. You did that. You all did that. So it's a verb. It's going to be some sort of in some sort of a form, probably present tense or nomic tense, and it might agree with something. So let's start with warm. Is it going to start as warm, or is it going to be built off of hot?
Build up hot. Build up hot.
What? Okay, hot. Give me something.
Hey,
Wait, I heard ea first. Okay, how are we going to take ea? Wait, we don't have that vowel. Let's call it aya. Okay, how are we going to take aya and turn it from hot to warm?
Ish.
Yeah, how are we going to do that?
Ish.
Change the starting vowel
To what?
to the low round one.
Oh my God. I'm going to accept that even though, yeah, okay. All right, so this is how it would work. We probably put here, and then it would probably have something on it to indicate that it was agreeing with something. Since the pronouns are coming afterwards, it's probably built off the pronouns, and it's probably going to be built off of this pronoun. Somebody just give a shout for a third person pronoun, really simple one.
La.
La. All right, so I'm going to say la. Okay, and so we have, please remember to wash your hands with warm water. Mamatia ingazanguri savi la. There you go. Anyway.